everyone, thanks for joining us and tuning in to the live stream today. We hope you are having a great Thursday. I'm Jiaxing from the Google Developer Relations team, and welcome to our 7th edition of Startup Coffee Chat at Google Developer Space. Startup Coffee Chat is a series of events where we bring startups across Southeast Asia together to share best practices and learn from one another. And this month's topic is on scaling engineering and product teams. We are super excited to have a great lineup of speakers with us. Firstly, we have Julius, the VP of Engineering at Hubble. Julius leads the product and engineering team, and Hubble is a construction tech company building an end-to-end solution for the entire industry. They are working with the Singapore government to help protect construction workers from the COVID-19 outbreak. And next, we have Rosabella, AVP Product at Ticket.com. It's an Indonesian online travel company, and Rosabella leads a team of product managers, UX research, and UI UX designers. She believes building great product is a balance of understanding what customers want and need, creativity, and innovation. And we also have Kang, the CTO of Parcel Perform. Kang leads technological innovation and development of Parcel Perform, a delivery experience platform for merchants, marketplaces, carriers, and B2B businesses. He'll be sharing his experience on scaling tech teams and building distributed systems. And lastly, for our moderator today, it will be led by Maria, Google developer expert of Google Cloud Platform. Maria has more than 10 years of experience working with data, having been in various positions and implemented many technologies and solutions. She works closely with both the technical and functional subject matter experts to successfully create products. For today's session, we will be discussing challenges on what they face growing their teams, how engineering and product teams can work together effectively, and what they look out for in tech hires and more. You are welcome to submit your questions on our YouTube or Facebook live chat, and we'll do our best to answer them. Without further ado, let's welcome our speakers and moderator up to the virtual stage. Hi, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
Yep, Maria, take it away.
Thank you, Jason, for the introduction. Hi, good evening, everyone. Hi, Bella, Julius, and Kang. How are you?
I'm good.
Fine. I'm good, everyone.
Yeah, very good.
Okay, I think everyone in here cannot wait for us to start the discussion. I'll start with my first question. Okay, the first question is for all of you. I think later we can take them who will answer the question. Okay, as a leader, either in the engineering or product team, could you please share to us what is your biggest challenge? Also, it will be great if you can share how you overcome it. So, anyone want to start first?
Yeah, I can start.
Okay, Bella.
Okay, I guess I think my challenge will be slightly different with with Kang and Julius, right? Because I'm coming from the product where they are like I think coming from engineering team, and obviously I don't think my product team will be as big as the engineering team, right? But I guess to be honest, my challenge as product will be the same in other organization as well. Will be managing people is going to be the hardest. My personal biggest challenge is to balance between the expectation between my team and the stakeholders. Sometimes I have to be the good cop, sometimes I have to be a bad cop, and managing people sometimes I cannot guess as well like what the people wants and how, and sometimes being nice is not just enough. So for me I think that I guess um, how do I overcome that? I would say I guess like learning for I think it's a learning process, to be honest. For me it doesn't happen just in one day. Sometimes I still fail, but I get a lot of feedbacks. I have good mentors on this, I guess, and I ask my team to grow together with me. I think that's how I overcome that.
Okay, wow, that's very interesting. So it's from the people management, from the, how to manage the stakeholder. How about Kang? Could you share your experience?
Yeah, sure. So for us, our biggest challenge is actually organize a team of teams. We're growing fast, and a lot of these are new to us. Essentially, we want to balance between individual team autonomy, but at the same time keep its consistency to the rest of the organizations. We want team to have a strong ownership around the features that well is old, without developing silo knowledge that very specific to a particular team, right? How we have been overcoming that. We get a lot of great inspirations from Spotify Spark model, and also this book on management 3.0. I think it's by now it's a movement. Basically, we organize our engineering team into cross-functional squad. Each has all the functions it needs to develop features from end to end. We also have chapter where we group people of the same functions into kind of mini organizations, so we can constantly keep everyone updated with the development happening elsewhere in the organizations. And then finally, we put relatively strong investment into our mid-level managers so that the SWAT can be as autonomous as possible.
Okay. Okay. Julius, how about you? Did you have like the same experience with Kang?
Oh yeah, I think in scaling teams, right? One of the most difficult thing is, as Kang says, also like how you communicate. Team of teams, how you make sure that people are aligned. I think that it's something that even in the company where I'm in, that we constantly struggle. I think the main reason is because people see from various different perspectives, right? Let's say, for example, I'm doing sales. I'm looking at things from a sales perspective. I want to meet my numbers, but if I'm from engineering, right, like I'll be like, oh, you're selling too much. Like we don't have time to do all this, right? Like, but from their perspective, is like if I don't sell, then how can the company survive, right? I think it's very important for us to think of the entire downstream, from sales to product to design to engineering to customer support, that everyone is in the company in general to help the company succeed, to help the team win. However, there's a lot of things that are lost in translation. So let's say, for example, if I'm from customer support, I may not always feel that the engineering team understand the predicament where I'm in. I'm the one getting yelled at by the customers. I'm the one, at the receiving end of all these negative words. And if the engineering team pushes back to the customer support as well, then it kind of puts them in a very difficult situation. So in our company, I guess to add to what has already been said, one of the most difficult thing is driving alignment. Like we need to be able to understand the context of the other teams so that we can be able to work together. Because one of the dangers that I see, right, when a team scales, is that there will be turf wars. Instead of actually working with each other to benefit the entire company, people will kind of build their own shell and defend against other teams. Once we start to do that, then communication breaks down, and then we cannot work in the interest of the company. So I think that's the biggest challenge that I'm facing.
It is very interesting to see the two point of view. Regardless, you are in the product team or you are in the engineering team, I can see that all of us, including me, we are having the same similar challenges, starting from the stakeholder management, the people management, how to make sure the team, the engineering team, aware about the business process, how we can develop a solution where we can help our business user. And also, one of the important thing is like how to grow the team. So it will lead to my next question regarding growing the team. Kang is okay. Kang, as a CTO who is managing a team in 3 different locations, Singapore, Vietnam, and Europe, what challenges did you face when you're growing the team? Maybe you can share how many people that you're managing now, and then what did you have to do differently?
Oh, all right. Um, they're definitely challenging. There's an echo from your side. Right. Yes, right now we have around 40 to 50 engineers in our organizations, we also have three offices in Vietnam, Singapore, and in Germany. There's a lot of coordinations that go into that. And COVID situation make it even worse because I don't think I have chance to see my colleagues in Singapore and in Germany in the last 2 years. Some of the ways that we're working around that of how we adapt to scale the team that I think initially we put a lot of effort on the say one-man army, and because we was tiny, I think we start with like three engineers, and so each of us need to know the whole system and capable of do a lot of firefighting on the side. But as we grow bigger, we stop idolizing that one-man army and put more focus on the team. We also have a mentality shift where we change from focusing on time to market and prototype and more into system stability, future extensibility, and then backward compatibility. We went from functional teams, like having a back-end team, front-end team. I think by, by the size of 10, we stopped doing that. We changed into the cross-functional team that I described earlier. And we introduced more engineering practice and technologies that essentially make it possible for different teams to collaborate with each other easier, like a stronger documentation culture. Change career path for people so that they can grow on the spectrum from junior, senior, tech lead, and etc. We also make some technology change that for me as an engineer is the most interesting aspect. I, I turn to appreciate strongly typed language more. I have only been a Python type guy in my life, but it's so easy to just code up a prototype. Now I appreciate JavaScript and old school language because the bigger the team, the easier it is that to make an interface, and you know that the interface stays the same a few weeks from now. We also invest into stuff like service contracts, which to a certain extent is strongly typed language across different services. So those are things that we do, and we find that with the combination of blockchains and technologies, documentation, collaborations, cross-location get easier.
Okay, so it's very important to have a standard. Is that something that very important? I agree with that. Okay, so how about Bella? Maybe Bella, is it possible for you to share like what is the composition of your team, or like how many senior, how many junior, and then what did you do to enable and empower them?
Um, what do I do? Okay, I guess to be honest, as the team is growing, to be honest, my hand is already full. I mean, my hands become fuller and fuller, right? I can no longer micromanage them anymore. So to be honest, I need to have trust and then groom them. To be honest, so I will have my own personal time. So I think that's what I do. Yeah, I mean, I started guiding them to be more independent, to be able to make decisions. So it's no longer a top-down decision from me anymore. Teach them how they can think critically. So then I will need to do check. And then I think I will need to do like once a week or maybe twice a week checkpoint with them and understand what are the issue. So I think I teach them how to do problem solve, because as a product, like the problem that we are facing is not going to be the same like this week or next week. So I think that's how I grow them. And then
Mm.
once I have like the people that I can trust, then we can start having more people under them as well. I think that's how I grow. Because obviously I cannot manage every single one of them once the team gets bigger and bigger. So you need to have trust with the next person. Mhm.
So is there any changes when you have like your second man? Like,
Yeah.
is it
Uh,
do you have
yeah.
like more time for yourself?
Yeah, definitely. And surprisingly, I mean, they like it more because I no longer micromanage them. To be honest, that's what they told me. And then they now I think they like it that now I ask them more on the reason what are their decisions. So they actually the contribution they've made are amazing. Mm-mm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. That's a very good
Be honest,
decision
yeah,
there.
to be honest, I have to do it because I just have my own baby. I just have my baby, right? So I no longer can like
Ah,
sit until very late. So to be honest, I think my circumstances also force me to do so. Mm-mm.
okay. 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 How about Julius? So, is it difficult for you to grow the team? Like, how is it? How to find a balance between? I mean, when we are doing development, of course, we will. The business user will ask us to do as soon as possible, as fast as possible. And then how do you balance it? Like you need to grow the team, but you still need to get the requirement and the developing. And then how about the technical depth? I'm here that we when we are doing development, we need to do like what import from Soundcard, or maybe you want to share your experience.
Yeah, that's a very good question. So I think in terms of growing the team, right? One of the biggest problems we have is that Shopee and Grab are stealing all our talents. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But they're paying too much. But to kind of add more context to that, right? For recruiters, actually, and even for software engineers, they look at the brand, and they look at the resume or the CV, and those brands, right, are actually called signals for recruiters. So let's say, for example, it's exactly the same resume. The only difference is that one resume says he works in Google and another in Hubble. You're probably going to go with the one in Google, even if they perform similarly in interviews. That becomes a challenge for us because in terms of branding, we are weak. It's just reality there. So how do we work around that is to actually sell the idea. What kind of vision does the company have? What we want to accomplish, and whether people are actually on board with those ideas. So I think that's part of growing the team. The other question that you ask, right, is that all right? Now I'm trying to grow the team. Now there's tech depth. Now there's product requirements. How do I balance all of them? So there was a very interesting story that Jeff Weiner, the former CEO of LinkedIn, used to share, which is this: he will ask the question, uh, in a football match or a soccer game, depending on where you stay, what's the role of the goalkeeper? And most people will say that the role of the goalkeeper is to prevent the other team from scoring, which is obviously true. But the ultimate idea behind that is that the role of the goalkeeper is to help the team win, and his primary job, of course, is to protect the opposing, to keep the opposing team from scoring. But if he has to play offense, he has to play offense. So what that means is that every member in the organization, in the company, needs to actually work together for the team to win. So we have tech debts, we have problems with the human resources, we have problems with the product features that we want to build. It's very important for us to sit together, talk about it, and stack rank. Okay, what's the highest impact of all the things that we want to do, and work with the highest impact first. So, in Sheryl Sandberg, the CEO of Facebook, she typically mentions that it's important for us to do what she calls ruthless prioritization. And the idea is that you have all the list of things that you want to do, you have the impact, you have the effort. Work with the highest impact, lowest effort first, because those are the ones that's going to give you tremendous value. Those with the highest effort, lowest impact, ignore them, put them in the backlog. And those in between, then you can keep them at the back and keep reprioritizing as new information comes in. So for our team, I think that that's how we should do it in order for us to scale.
Is there any time that you need to explain to your business user that you need to prioritize something else rather than doing their request? How do you
Yeah,
handle that kind of thing?
Yeah, so it is a good question. So, for example, for us, right, we are a construction tech company, which means that we handle a lot of user data. And if in the event of a data breach, we will be in trouble. Um, because we have user information, right? More information than what a typical B2C company have. Like we have, like construction worker information and so forth. So in the event that we see an area whereby something wrong in our the way we store our data, for example, or like there's something wrong with the way we process information, then we go to the product team and say, guys, we cannot let this, expose, keep this exposed, because in the event that we get attacked, then we're screwed. So then it's up to them to say, all right, okay, I think this is very dangerous. And then we prioritize it. So there are things like this happening all the time.
Okay, okay, that's very interesting. So the next question that I want to ask is about the alignment. We have Bella from the product team, we have Kang and Julius from the engineering team. As a leader who should always work together, how do you build the alignment across cross-functional team? Could we start from Bella and Julius and then Kang?
I guess like yeah, I guess with us like as product and engineering, sometimes we have different goals. So I think what we need to ensure is to make sure that everyone is seeing the same goal. Make sure that we both have the same vision. I think that is very important. And otherwise, I think it's going to be very hard for us to work together. Yeah, sometimes to be honest, for that one, I also ask for someone that higher than all of us. I guess in this case, like the CEO, CPO, or CTO, to actually talk and make sure the vision from as a company are the same. Mm-mm.
Okay,
Yeah.
how about Julius?
Yeah, so for us, right, in order for us to drive, as the company grows, you will have people with various different personalities, and then you have to adapt to them. Um, for example, in a typical startup, uh, what would the skill set required for the people in the early stage startup, meaning from pre-seed to Series A, is very different from a Series A to a Series B and moving forward. From a pre-seed to Series A, you need people who can actually like just bang the wall and actually get things done. Which means that these types of people tend to be very, very demanding, very, very productive, very, very unreasonable. But these are the skill set that you need in order to change the world. However, once you move past Series A and now you need to scale the company, the leaders of the company needs to move from that perspective to say, all right, now I can no longer uh, how should I say manage everything because everyone's growing. I need to now delegate trust. So in order for us to build alignment, right, we need to know at which stage the company is in, what's the state of the company, what's the communication process within the company, and how do we remedy that at that stage of the company. So say for example, uh, if we are at the transition phase between, let's say, from a Series A to a Series B or Series B to Series C, let's just use A and B for example, which is quite common in many companies. Series B is usually called the series of debt, because the reason is because once you ask your investors to invest for Series B, they want to have proof that you can actually sustain. Series A is more of a gamble. It's very risky. Series B is different. So at that point, in order for you to drive alignment, you need to see if your bosses, if your leaders are actually able to transition from that mindset in those early days into the mindset needed for Series B. And you need to help them because usually in Series A, it's the highest paid person's opinion that gets the way. In Series B, it has to be the most important work, the highest impact feature or solution that has to win. Because now you're moving from intuition to data. And as you scale the company, it has to be less and less of intuition and more and more of data. There was one guy, I can't remember the name, who works in Airbnb, Amazon, and Microsoft. He's the head of data. And what he said is that every good intent of actually making an improvement for a company or a feature, uh, all of them, 60 to 90%, have either zero impact or negative impact, even if intuitively it makes sense. So that one is very important. So which means that as you scale the company, if you want to drive alignment, get out of opinions, move to data.
Okay, I love it. As a data person, I love it. How about you, Kang?
Right. So yeah, I think alignment is big for all of us. For basketball farm, I think there was a point where we crossing the line at 30 people, And we find ourselves that every couple of weeks we have an alignment meeting. It's people pointing finger into different directions, and we need, hey guys, let's put our head together and talk this through. But that's very time consuming, and we also didn't feel like we really know what we was doing. So that was the point where we start to look into something more systematic, something more structured. We came up with this. If people know what is the goal of the organization, this is very similar to what Rosabella was mentioning earlier. If people know where we're going, only that, then they get to make their own decisions without worrying that it would upsetting somebody else. So we have company-wide, we have these visions, strategies, and principles. The higher it is, the more high level, but then on the way down to principle is more towards how you're going to justify these actions. And also different phases of the company require different strategy and principle, but visions rarely change. And these values help us align people, and we actually encourage them to make the decision that embrace the vision, strategy, and principle we put together. We actually we also build in our engineering process different checkpoints so that on different team can know what others are doing and raise feedback as soon as possible. So for like for us developing a new features or entering a new market, for example, we're going to have high level discussions. At this point, the idea is just an idea. There's nothing concrete to that, everything up for change. Then we have an inception. At this stage, we roughly know what we want to do already. It probably doesn't have an interface yet, but we know who are the key players here. Then moving down the line, we do Scrum, so we have this sprint and sprint planning meeting. Over there, the idea got solidified. We break it down into story, estimate that, and put it into a roadmap. And along all of those events, we invite people from marketing, from sales, the account manager to join in because they have insight that might be invisible for us from the engineering side. And not only that, but we continue with the sync up with of expectations between people and teams on different frequencies. The closer you work together, the more often you need to do this. So daily, weekly, and on company level, it's a monthly basis. We do have these town halls, everybody joins, we discuss everything. It's very much an open communication channel.
Okay. So if I may make a summary, company-wide vision is the main goal for everyone, regardless of the team, either in the engineering, product, or even the data team like me. And managing stakeholders, always reminding them about the goal that we want to achieve together is also important. And what Kang said, put the process and the standard in place. The last thing but not the least is to take feedback, encourage the team to make decision, learn from the mistake and the success together as a team. So that's the how we can have a good alignment with the cross-functional team. Okay, I think before I go to my next question, I will take one question from the audience. We have one question here, and then this one is we'll need help from Kang and Julius to answer. What? Okay. The question from Andrew Lam. What tools do you use to help you in scaling engineering and product teams? Della can add later. This is a difficult question.
Are you directing the question or to the Julius and Kang?
Oh yeah, Julius and Kang can answer first, and after that Della can answer.
Do I go first? Okay, I guess I go first.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's a very good question. I don't think there's a very specific software tool that we use. I mean, primarily you actually use tools to solve an existing problem, right? But maybe to kind of give you a different answer to what you're looking. I'm not sure exactly what the context of the question is, but I can tell you how we scale the team. Um, Again, I did mention earlier that just by branding alone, We cannot compete with companies like Google, Shopee, Grab, ByteDance, whatever. But we can compete in a different way. For example, people in general, they would like to, number one, work with excellent people. They would like to work with products with a vision, um, and they would like to work with people that cares for them. So to be clear, these are very research driven. So a person named Daniel Pink actually did this research whereby he tried to find out what actually keeps people in a company and what makes people actually want to join a company. Of course, like money is one, right? But it turns out that the three that I identified, working with awesome people, working on a product with a very good vision, and actually working with people who cares about them, are the three most important things that people look for. So what are some of the things that I do? I would actually go to LinkedIn and look for the skill set that we need. Talk to the people. Introduce them that, hey, we are from such and such a company. We are doing such and such a product, uh, and these are the people that are part of the company. So, for example, one of the key selling point that Hubble has, right, is that Hubble has a lot of engineers that are somehow related to Google at some way, in some way. We have chapter leads in various Google developer groups in Southeast Asia, and then we do have quite a bit of a Google developer experts in the company as well. Because people likes to work with good engineers, right? It becomes quite attractive then. So that's the way I actually try to scale the company, by actually reaching out. And if a recruiter reaches out to you, normally, I mean, if you're a recruiter, right? Like, people ignore you. Uh, if a CTO, a VP, or a CEO reaches out to you, the chances of you actually responding to them is much higher, because now you're like, oh, the VP is talking to me. Now, yeah, it makes you feel good, right? Then you're more likely to actually engage. Then you can go the distance.
Okay, that's interesting. So, like, do you have like any specific schedule to contact people, or
Sorry,
is
anyway.
just like
Oh, Medium.
okay?
Well, I use LinkedIn. So let's say, for example, if I'm looking for, okay, I'm looking for React engineers, for example, then I just search React. Then it will show up. Then I'll filter, okay, Singapore, okay, no, they probably don't want to join. Let's go to Vietnam. Okay, they probably want to join. Then I talk to people from Vietnam.
Okay. How about you, Kang? I think it's gonna be, is it Iran or
All right, the question is about tools that help me scale engineering and product team, right? Right, I'm going to approach it as small tools point of view. So I do have two criteria that for tools that I basically weigh out on the options. So as my team get bigger, the first criteria of the tool is that ones that make communications as easy as possible. The easier, the better. So one great example is, should we put the documentation into README file or into a Google Doc? So for me, there are use cases for both of these tools. But if I'm fixing a production issues and I need to coordinate with as many stakeholders as possible, then Google Doc is it. It's allow me to live document the incident, answer questions, and everybody see how the incident evolved. Um, it saves a lot of time, just for everyone eyes on the same documentations that update in real time. It's not just documentation. Like IntelliJ recently actually has a features where you can pair programs together online on two different machines, which is a great addition for this work from home situations. And second criteria that I have is that the tool has to be self-serving. As the team get bigger, if whenever somebody wants to do something, have to go to another person and ask for a favor, it's not going to scale. So a great example of this is the whole Git and CI/CD pipeline. I do have DevOps team, but I do not bother them with every single deployment. Right? The tool is great because it creates a process for code to get reviewed, get the approval from the maintainer, run test, and deploy all on its own. You invest probably once for a solid pipeline, but then it served and scaled really well with the team. So yes, making communication as easy as possible and self-serving model are the two key points for me when I choose tools. I think it's impossible to list out all the tools what we use at the moment.
Okay, wow, okay, that's very important. That's very important. How about Bella? What do you think from the product perspective?
I mean, like I think both like Julius and Kang mentioned. I think to be honest, there are a lot of tools that we use, right? But to be honest, in my point of view, these tools comes more handy since we adopt like the work from home um, behavior. Because I guess maybe slightly different with Julius or Kang that have like teams um, outside like the country itself, or maybe not in the same office with with me. I think I used to have all my teams with me, and then we actually do like a lot of face-to-face meeting and discussion. But I guess these tools like Jira, Confluence, like Figma, Slack, and everything. I think we use a lot of Google Hangout and everything. Do comes in handy during the work from home. But if you ask me specifically what tools in product, I think there are quite a lot, and there are also a lot of alternatives to it. Yeah. I mean, the basic one that we use is Confluence, Slack, Google Hangout. Yeah, I think a lot of G Drive, G Docs, Google PowerPoint, and so on. Mm-mm.
Yeah,
Yep.
I think this situation is
Yeah.
forcing us to work from home, and then there's no other way rather than using all the tools. If not, it's gonna be very difficult to do a collaboration. It's gonna be difficult to even keep in touch with our team. Yeah. Okay. Okay. This is it. Okay, Andrew, hopefully is answering your question. It's a very long question. So let us know if you still have another follow-up question. If not, I will go for a question from the registration. I'll go back to Julius. This is a very long one. How did you go about implementing and integrating software engineering best practice? Yeah, when you first embark as a junior developer, maybe you can share. You can give your tips and tricks.
Okay, so well, I mean, as a junior software engineer, right? You cannot integrate best practices because you don't even know what the best practices are. Um, but probably the question is more about, all right, now my startup has a lot of junior software engineers. What do I do with them? This is very common. When you start a startup, um, pre-seed, for example, you don't have money, right? Or most people don't have money, at least. And so the only hope that you have, right, is to hire students, hire people fresh out of school, and hopefully they can come up with a good enough product for you to sell, right? Um, the moment you find a product market fit, meaning you have customers, you think you can scale, there's evidence for that, straight away hire your seniors. The longer you keep your, the longer you, how should I say, uh, save up quote unquote money from hiring seniors, the more chaos that's going to ensue. And here's the reason why. Junior engineers without proper mentors may come up with products that looks good on the outside but is chaos in the inside, and it's not their fault. The reason why it's such a case is because they haven't seen enough of the world to make those kind of informed decisions that the seniors can make. One of the things that many CEOs actually screw up on is that they're not technical, and they don't have enough research data to actually help them understand what type of software engineers to hire. So if you're a CEO, or if you're leading an engineering team and you have a budget, here's what you should do. There was a research by Tom DeMarco and Tim Lester, who wrote Peopleware. And what they did was there's a cohort of students, and they asked them to pair up and work on a certain software engineering project problem. It turns out that the top 10% of software engineers are 10 times better than the lowest 10. And the top 10% of engineers are actually 2.5 times more productive than the average engineer, which means that if an engineer is worth, let's say, $1,000, whatever, depending on the country, if an average engineer is worth $1,000, you might as well look for the best, pay them double the salary because they're going to produce more for you. Um, this research was corroborated by Joel Spolsky, which is, as everyone knows, the one who founded Stack Overflow, and he found the very same numbers. So, as a startup, the moment you have a product market fit, straight away get your seniors because they will save you so much mental energy, so much problem. Because for juniors, you will micromanage the juniors because they will screw up and it will annoy you. The seniors, they know what they're doing. So it will afford you that mental real estate to invest your brain power to something else, that which gives the company. So I hope that answers the question.
I couldn't agree more. So it's very important to, especially if you're a new team, it's very important to hire the senior one first, and then you can go in the future. So I'm talking from the experience. Okay, so I have another question for Kang is regarding the DevOps. So is DevOps a good field to enter as the job supply is not abundant as a role in the front end and back end? What do you think, Kang, from your experience, from your requirement maybe?
All right. Yes. I do have quite a number of DevOps on my team, and I would say that DevOps at the moment is an excellent career choice. As company get more mature and technologies get more complicated, the role of DevOps is increasingly more important. Uh, CI/CD pipeline, site reliability, infrastructure as a code. Those are some of the fields where DevOps are essential. DevOps delivery by nature are highly automated. So in a team, you do not need as many DevOps as front end and back end. So it's true that the job supply is not as abundant, but the reward is also accordingly. It's again very important. And yes, as a field, I do notice that DevOps is a little bit harder to join as a fresher, given their high level of responsibility. But look, DevOps is what? It's an overlap in zone between software development, more backend development, and then system administrations. So you get a better footing by just start by having a good foundation in either of these fields. Then work your way towards the other end. So if you better at developing, pick up some backend work and do more automation day by day, get started with some CI/CD pipeline. If you're already good with system administration, try to automate your job.
So in summary, the DevOps is very important. It's a niche market. So if you can learn, if you can combine the skill set of the software engineering and system administrator, then you are the right person for it.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Kang. Bella, any advice to a young team member in the large enterprise on how to spark collaboration across the functional team? This is like a junior team member, just join the company. What should this person do?
Sorry, is this a young developer? I mean, I cannot comment much, I guess, for the young developer.
Yeah, it's okay. For you, change it to young team member.
Okay. I guess like always want to learn. Yeah. I guess even at my stage, I just act like you don't know anything. I guess. Yeah. I think curiosity and then always wants to learn. I think that helps a lot because to be honest, especially in my field, yeah, in product, yeah, what is trending now is no longer trending tomorrow. So we just need to like evolve and start learning. To be honest, yeah. I think that's it. Therefore, I think my big advice. Yeah.
Okay, thank you,
Mm,
Bella.
thank
I'll
you.
go back to the question from Jo Hang. This is for Kang engineers again. How to avoid the overcost of in software for coding?
All right, that's all for me.
Yes.
All right. I don't have a concrete answer for this. How much time? Too much time on coding kind of always the I don't know the dilemma of software engineering. But I find that in practice, the market kind of always tell you when. You have time to market to consider. You have your competitor rushing in the same field, and the feedback from your customer as well. And again, I always pointing back to the process because process is always there to safeguard us from making the wrong decisions. So if you follow Agile well, then you always favor early release, right? Release the prototype, get all the feedback, and reflect that back to your product. If if you work on something for a long time without any feedback, or even if you release already, nobody used that, then probably you're on the wrong field, with the wrong idea, and probably it's time to pivot to something else. I'm sorry, it kind of reflecting the questions, but yes, it's a complicated matter, and I base that on case-by-case basis quite a lot.
Girish, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think it's a very difficult question, as Kang mentioned, but hopefully this will help. This actually applies in life as well. It's very important for us to think of the long term and plan the short term in light of the long term. Many startups don't have that. Many startups is like, oh, customer is shouting at me. Now I have to do this. But a startup, right? So Eric Smith, for example, former CEO of Google, here's what he says. Whenever you join a company as a CEO, I guess, or a senior executive, always ask, what's the 3-year roadmap? Because if a company is able to tell you, all right, this is my 3-year roadmap, it is a good indication that the leaders have planned ahead. So once you're able to plan ahead, what you can do now is to say, all right, this is our direction for the long term. What now is our direction in the short term? So let's say typically product team, they actually plan ideally lah, not typically. Ideally, they should plan in quarters. First quarter of the year, this is what we do. Second quarter, third quarter, so on and so forth. Now, let's say for example, if this doesn't exist, right? There's no plan at all, and it's just like absolute chaos. What's going to happen is that you're going to engineer something and then realize that, oh no, the customer wants something else. Oh no, such and such doesn't work. Now we have to tear everything down and build another thing. But and another thing is that if product says, all right, this is what we want, and then later on they want to build something on top of what has already been built, and you build it in haste because you're a startup, now you're going to tear everything down and then add those things in, put them back together. Now it takes more time. So if from top down, from meaning to say from sales all the way to product, all the way to engineering, we're able to say, all right, this is the direction, this is what we want to do. Now the engineers will be like, oh, okay, there's the long-term plan. Now I have to tell the product manager, okay, it's going to take a little bit more time because I'm accounting for that plan that you have 3 months down the road, 6 months down the road. Now you don't have to refactor because you already accommodate those things by spending 1 or 2 more weeks, and then now you save money in the long run because now you can invest the engineering resources on something else. Hopefully that helps.
Okay, so proper planning is the key. Is the key for everything. The planning, the vision is very important.
Mhm.
Okay, so I think we still have more time for the last question. Andrew asked a very good question, and then this is for all of you. What is the most challenging part of collaboration between engineering and product teams? I know for sure that it's not a smooth relationship. No, everybody's laughing. Okay, anyone can answer that one? Who wants to answer first? Should we go to
Okay,
Bella?
I guess oh yeah.
Bella, what do you think, Bella?
Yeah, to be honest, I experience this like on weekly basis or not like daily basis. To be honest, I guess like managing expectation of each other. To be honest, I think that was the challenging part, right? Because obviously product wants something this way, but then oh yeah, in our and sometimes I cannot or can deliver, but not according to what is specified. So I guess for me, I guess that is my most challenging part, like managing expectation and understand each other job. Yeah, I think that will be my hardest part because if it sometimes when we don't understand each other, then I just the collaboration just going to fail. Yeah.
Kang, do you have any comment from the engineering side?
Yeah, sure. I do have, and I was spending the last couple of minutes relieving on the experience I have with my product team. And I think that the biggest pain point that I have only been trying to solve is that when you think about product, you feel attached to it. You start to develop ideas on how things gonna happen, and then one level deeper, you start to think how you're going to implement that. Nothing wrong with that, but the trouble comes when you need to communicate this idea to the engineering side. Um, I find a lot of case people kind of say they give a conversation go like a dictation where what the engineer should do. Like drop this field from the database at 3 more column, do a migrations. Because you spend days thinking about how this migration is gonna go on, you give out very specific order because you know exactly what needs to be done. Uh, it doesn't spark any collaboration, isn't it? Um, it's a lot easier to give a bit of context and explain where you want to get to. Say the addresses are being stored as a string, and that makes geographical query ineffective or impossible. What can we do from there? So same problem, but if you change the approach, then the engineer get to flex their creativity is much go, and the the product owner get a much better solution.
Mhm. Okay. How about you, Julius? Do you have like to close this question? What's gonna be your comment?
Yeah, I think what Kang says is like I'd like to add to what he says actually about engineering creativity, right? Um, what I find is that again, in various departments in a company, people are in pain because they're trying to solve a problem. If we are unable to empathize with the other department, it's very difficult for us then to communicate. Then we start to stonewall, various teams. But everyone is out there in general to help the team win. Now, because the product managers are almost always in a startup, uh, pressure to deliver a product feature, then they want the feature right to be out as fast as possible, right? Now let's say I'm an engineer. I'm like, wow, this feature that takes 2 weeks, you want me to deliver in 3 days? Like, are you, like, why? Like, and then the product manager will have a different perspective, right? Like, if we don't deliver, our ship is sinking already. What do you want to do? So there's all these things that comes into play. Now, in light of engineering creativity, right? Um, I think it's then I have to say also that product managers they also want to be creative, and sometimes they are also limited by engineering resource. So let's say, for example, let's say I'm building Google Analytics, and Google Analytics has data and all these things, right? When people visit your website, then you can use GA to like find all these information. In an ideal scenario, whenever you build an analytics dashboard, you want them to be as real time as possible because you want to act on the data as it comes. The longer you have to wait for the data, the less quality of decision you have to make, right? As you all might know, the more recent the data, the more actionable they are. Um, so of course, from a product perspective, it's like, well, like just make it real time now. How difficult is it? But if I'm Kang, right, Kang will be like, no, like, like this is insane. Like, and the reason is because if you want real time data, as long as data accuracy is not an issue, it's fine. Let's say, for example, real time, a watch marker for YouTube, for example. Even if that fails, that's fine. If you want a real time data that actually tallies, because you're actually helping the business, oh my God, that's insane. So if the engineer comes to you and say, okay, this is going to take 4 months, the product manager will be like, I mean, how difficult is it? Like other companies can do what? But the real issue there is that like if you want to actually solve a problem, you also have to think about, all right, what are my trade-offs, and it has always to be discussed between the product and engineering team rather than stonewalling. What we have found, right, is that engineers are very smart, very arrogant, and not empathetic, and it annoys the product managers a lot, and it drives them crazy. So and hence also, I guess to kind of divert a little bit, right? It has been shown that female engineers adds tremendous value to a primarily male group of engineers because female tends to be far more empathetic than male. And they can create that context that's missing in a male-dominated group. So I guess I kind of segue a bit, right? It's very important to hire female engineers for that particular reason if it's a male-dominated group. So it's important to drive that empathy, and most of us fail to have that. But as much as possible, let's try to have that.
Okay. Understand each other and having empathy. That's the key. That's the key for us to be able to work together. Wow. I think we don't have any more time. Thank you so much, Bella, Kang, and Julius for sharing your experience. We really appreciate your time with us. I'll give it back to Cassie.
Thanks, everyone. Wow, Julius, I love the last point when you mentioned that female engineers are more empathetic. I never knew that, so I learned something new today as well. I have one last question for all of you. So there are a couple of students who registered for our event today, and a lot of questions that they are asking is what are some of the important skills that you look for someone who is trying to break into the tech industry? So let's imagine they don't really have the familiarity with the tools and the software that you use. Maybe you can just share one or two top quality that you look for, be it in their resume or in their interviews. Kang is very puzzled. He seems like he's thinking. So I would direct it to Maria or Julius first. Or Rosabella, feel free to jump in as well.
Okay, wow. Okay, this one for me. If you are new, take your online course, and then not only that, involved in the project. If I want to hire somebody, I want to hire someone who already has a project experience. Not only learn. Everyone can learn, but not everyone can involve in the project. So I need hands-on experience new hire. So that's the most important thing.
Thanks, Maria.
Me? Oh dear. Okay,
Feel
this
free, Julius.
this is a very difficult question. Okay, let me try. The difficult part is that people are trying to break into the tech industry. So normally, right, when you're reviewing a resume and then you're like, oh, okay, he's doing philosophy, probably not, man, like not going to work. This is something that the student can try. Um, what happens when people submit their CV is that in general, you want your CV to draw attention. Your CV is not going to work because you're trying to break into the tech industry. You probably don't have enough experience. So here's what you can do. Um, look for the companies that you are interested in. Look at their websites and create a side project that actually solves something for them. Whether it's already solved by them or it's something that could solve a potential issue, solve something for them, email them and say, hey, I'm very interested in your company. In fact, I did such and such. Would you be interested to have a conversation because I want an internship? Now you have your feet in the door if they found your project interesting. Again, this is not like something that always works because there, like let's say for example, I'm Google, right? I probably have like some automated tool that actually filters out resume. I have heard, however, that Google actually manually reviews all resumes. But either way, it kind of depends now. Like that data was like 4 or 5 years ago, so things might have changed. So I think it's something that you can do. You cannot guarantee, but it might help.
That's really interesting. What about Rosabella and Kang?
Right. I think I can give it a go. So for people trying to break into the field, I look for two things. The first thing is ATAT. I mean, what your skills of not not learning something today and having a bad project, right? I think all the sectors, you get this dilemma that you cannot get in because you didn't have experience, you don't have experience because you're not even in.
Yep.
But, but it's not true for software engineering. Nothing prevents you from picking up an online courses. But it goes beyond that because software moving fast and startup also going fast. There's always something wrong somewhere. And I wouldn't be able to be there and fixing all your problems. But if you have initiative and have great trust that you will look at your problem or even others' problem and give an offer. So initiative is great. And the second one is that I don't care. Skill probably doesn't matter because the skill you know today obsolete tomorrow. Ella said that earlier. I just do it. Sorry. But you have to love what you do, and I always look for that for people with the sparkle in their eyes when they describe their pet projects. So two birds with one stone, right? You make a project and you can proudly present that and you're halfway there. Finally, we spent a lot of session today talking about collaborations, alignment between teams. So I guess the final thing one is someone that can be truly a team player.
Wow, interesting. I think we're seeing a common theme in what you all shared. Rosabella, what about you?
Yeah, so I think my experience will be slightly different from everyone because to be honest, I'm not coming from architect background as well, right? So I was, so for me, I think, but I think what is important for me, similarly, I think someone who love the product, like someone is the user as well, because I'm really annoyed if someone come to an interview with me and then they never use the product, they don't have any question about the product, and they're just very vague on it. So I think one, I guess, like know the product, understand that we also have issue. Don't come to me say that, oh, my product, because your product is perfect, because I know then it's not perfect. So I guess, yeah, have the mindset of the curiosity, research the product. Like I think what Julius mentioned just now, research the product and then do like a project and analysis. I think that will gain people's perspective as well. Yeah, I think that's for me.
Thanks. Yeah, I think so. Take initiative, like what Kang said, and I think everybody mentioned as well. Work on a project. Yeah, I think show that you are solving a problem and what you can add to the table. Yeah, I think this was a really fun discussion. Thank you everyone again for joining us on Thursday. Yeah, and as I wrap up the session, I will just move you folks to the backstage first. But if I think we have a question from Andrew. Unfortunately, we won't be able to answer it due to time constraint. But always feel free to reach out to any of our panelists on LinkedIn. I think they'll be more than happy to connect with you as well. Thank you again, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
If you would like to rewatch this session, you can always check it out on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. And we regularly host events with developer and startup communities. So if you found today's session interesting, do subscribe to our channel and keep updated with us as well. And lastly, we value your feedback. We'd love to know what you think about today's session. Do stay tuned for upcoming events on our website and social channels. And we'll see you again next month.